and today we're gonna make spaghetti with spaghetti sauce. So I'll just go over the tools that we're gonna use and the ingredients we're gonna use. So for our tools, we're gonna have a big pot for our spaghetti with the lid on it. We're gonna have a smaller pot or the same size, it doesn't matter, for our sauce. And we're not gonna make a lot of sauce because remember, we're not cooking for all of the students, we're just cooking for ourselves or our families, right? So I'm just gonna use a small pot. If you're cooking for more people, then you can use a bigger pot. I'm gonna have a spoon to stir my sauce with. I have a chef's knife to chop the vegetables. You gotta be careful with this one, always hold it by the handle. I have a fork here just to stir the spaghetti around a bit when it's in the pot. I have a garlic press to press the garlic. If you don't have one of these, that's fine. You can just use a regular knife. I just use that because it's easier. And also I have a vegetable peeler for the carrots. Aside from that, I have our usual cutting board here so we don't dirty up our surfaces. And I actually also have a bowl of warm water because I'm going to be cutting onions, and you know often you use onions and it makes your eyes water, makes you cry a bit. So actually when you put your raw onions inside a bowl of warm water, it helps with that. So it doesn't sting your eyes as much or even at all sometimes. So that's why I have a bowl of warm water with me. And if you guys are cutting, it's a good idea to try. It's a neat trick, so you can try that at home. In terms of ingredients, I have our meat. I'm using ground turkey for our spaghetti sauce. I have an onion here. I have 3 cloves of garlic. We might only need 2, but I put 3 just in case because who doesn't love garlic? I have some pepper. I have some salt. You can definitely add other spices. I normally do, like parsley, basil, oregano. A lot of herbs are really great with spaghetti sauce. I have a jar of spaghetti sauce here. If you guys want to even be brave and have a challenge and use it from cans, you can have a can of tomato sauce and a can of crushed tomatoes. That would be excellent. I also have vegetables, so I have a carrot here, and I have 2 celeries, and these are in a bowl that we're going to be putting them in. I have some Parmesan cheese for when we're done. I have some spaghetti noodles, because you can't have spaghetti without the noodles, right? And I also have some coconut oil to saute the vegetables with. So this is our ingredients and tool list, and we're gonna get started. So the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna prep our vegetables. Now you always wanna remember, you wanna wash and clean your vegetables before you use them so there's no extra dirt or bacteria on it, right? Just like your hands and tying back your hair, you also wanna make sure you do that first, so we're gonna dive right in. I'm gonna start with my celery. And I just have 2 little stalks of celery, and I'm gonna chop them into I'm gonna dice them, so into little tiny squares, or just into little tiny pieces. So since I'm holding the celery, again, I have my knife, very careful, always hold it with your strongest hand. I'm going to have my hand open and just put it over the celery. Normally we chop like this, but to start, since I'm cutting the celery in half, I'm gonna use that technique I showed you guys where I have my hand open. I just put it over the vegetables and put the knife in it like this. So I'm just going to hold it and I'm going to slice down the middle. And you have it in 2 parts like that. So I'm going to cut it just into 2 parts like that and do the same thing to the other piece of celery. Hand open, put the knife in, and just cut it. There we go. And another 2 parts. So now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to put my 4 parts together, and I'm going to chop it like this. If you're not comfortable doing all 4 at the same time, you can definitely just do 1 at a time. So you'll take 1 piece of celery, you have your knife, and that's when you're going to curl your fingers in, and then chop your celery. You can just bring your knife, and the closer you get to your fingers, the more celery you're going to push so your hand is farther away. Pretty fast. You're going to want to slow down to the end, at the end, just so you don't get your fingers stuck. So I'm actually going to flip my knife over so the sharp part is at the top, and I just use the bottom to pick up the celery and scoop it into my bowl, just like this. So I'm going to take the other 3, and if you want to do more at the same time, then it's basically the same thing. So you just take all of your celery, you hold it there like you normally would, make sure your sharp part is back down again. Go. So the next thing we're going to do is I'm actually going to peel my carrot. So I actually have this little paper bag with me because I'm going to put it in the compost after. But since I don't want to be walking back and forth to the compost, I just have that little bag. So you're going to hold your vegetable with one hand, and you're going to hold the peel with the other. And you're going to make sure the blade is actually resting against your vegetable, okay? And you're gonna bring it in a downward motion. You wanna make sure your fingers aren't in the way. I know sometimes it's hard to get the right angle, but just keep practicing, just keep trying. And again, if you need help, you can always ask mom or dad or whoever you're with to help you peel it. Put the peeler at the top, rest against my vegetable, and just go in a downward motion. And I'm gonna keep turning my carrot as I peel it until there's no more of the skin left. So you see right now, it kind of has a nice orange look, but with the part that's not peeled, it kind of looks kind of dingy, if you will, and a bit dirty. So that's the part you want to get off. The carrot is all peeled. I put the peels in a little round bag. And now we're going to chop the carrot, dice it just like we did the celery. So not a whole big piece, maybe just the first part of your finger. Slice this. On my last piece, I'm going to put my hand over it because it's too small. I don't want to cut my finger. And what you can do now is you can take your little circles that you cut and you can cut those into 4 if you want. So into 4 pieces. Comfortable? You can do more, like a couple at a time, and just kind of have your hand at the top of your knife where it's not sharp, and kind of just go up and down with your knife and cut the carrots as you go. Want the pieces to be small enough so that when they're in your sauce, you don't get giant chunks of carrot. Pieces are nice and small like this. Try to show you. There we go. You want to take your knife and scoop it into the bowl with the celery. Alright guys, so my carrots are all done cutting, and I'm just going to take them and I'm going to put them into the bowl, and then I'm going to move straight on to my onion. So here's the part where we all try not to cry. So I have my bowl of warm water here, and I have my onions. And I'm going to put that garbage away right away so that it doesn't sting my eyes, because I cry very easily for onions. So I'm going to take my knife, I'm going to hold the onion, and I'm going to just cut the top part off. Cut the bottom part as well. I'm going to toss this in the compost, peel off my onion skin, and dunk that around in the hot water. Kind of just rub it around a bit so that that onion, it kind of feels slippery. You're going to wipe the onion until that is gone away. And then I'm going to take my onion out again. Now it's all nice and without its skin. I'm going to take my knife and I'm going to cut it in half. The half that I'm not using, I'm going to put it face down, so the flat part, I'm going to put it in the water, and I'm going to also just rub the bottom of that again to get some of that slipperiness off. We're also going to dice the onions, but I'm just going to show you the way that I usually do it. So I'm going to have the half of my onion, I'm going to take my knife, and I'm just going to tilt it downwards, and not all the way to the top. I'm going to just cut through my onions and make little lines in my onions. And then when that's done, I'm just going to hold it with my fingers curled, and I'm going to cut down. And then you see what happens? It turns into little squares already, into little diced pieces. And when you get to the end, then you can just take your knife like I was doing and chop, chop, chop your onions. I'm going to do the garlic. So I have my garlic press here. It's a really neat little thing. So it looks kind of like a giant clothespin, I guess. So what you do is you open the garlic press, and there's a little hole. So I'm going to put my garlic in there, just drop it in there, and it has this little squishing part that when I turn it here, and I'm going to put it over the bowl with the carrots and the celery, I'm just going to push down, and then the garlic comes out the bottom. I take my knife, and I'm going to put it in the bowl like that. And you can put that in your compost. Now I'm going to do that with a second clove of garlic, all the way down as far as I can. Take my knife, and I'm just going to slide the garlic in. But that's all for our prep, really. I'm going to empty the water out of the onions, and I'm going to put them into the bowl, the carrots and the celery, and we're going to move to the stove, and then we're going to get cooking. So that's going to be 2 pots on each burner. and I'm going to turn them on. Before I do, my pot that I'm going to use for my spaghetti noodles, I'm going to fill it with water about halfway, okay? If you're using more noodles, then you can put a bit more water or a bigger pot, but you don't want to fill it up too much, because if you do, then when the pasta's in there and the bubbles start to rise, it's going to spill, and you don't want that. So I filled it up about halfway, and I'm going to put this one on about 8 to 8.5. If you want it to boil extra fast, you can even put it on maximum. So I'm going to make sure it's the right one. So I'm looking at the top, and I'm looking at the right, because that's where the white dot is, right? So that's where I want my pot to be, and that tells me which dial to turn. So I'm going to put it on 8.5, and I'm going to put a little bit of salt in there. So I'm just going to open up my salt, take a pinch of salt, and I'm going to drop it in there. I'm going to close that down and put it to the side. And then I'm going to put the lid on the pot, and I'm going to let that boil. Next, I have this little pot, and that's what the sauce is going to be in. So I am going to put this on medium, okay? And I'm going to wait until that heats up. And you can use vegetable oil if you want to, just a little bit at the bottom to saute your vegetables so they don't get stuck. So you can use vegetable oil, but I'm going to use coconut oil. So you can use coconut oil as well, or canola oil or sunflower oil. It doesn't really matter so much, as long as you have something at the bottom. So I'm going to open my coconut oil, take about maybe a tablespoon or so of coconut oil. Okay guys, so my onion's starting to sizzle, so that means my oil's ready. So I'm going to take my vegetables and I'm going to put them inside. So I'm not going to use all of mine like I was saying, but I'll do about 2 spoons or so, okay? So we put those in there. If you have any extra, you can just put it in a little container or a bowl and then use it for another recipe. Or if you want to make spaghetti twice, then you could use it for that as well. So now that my vegetables are in there, I'm going to saute them for a bit. I'm going to let them cook, okay? So you want to saute them for anywhere between 5 to 10 minutes. It depends on how high your stove is. But what you want is you want your carrots to start to get soft. Not super soft, but just so they're not crunchy anymore, okay? Alright, so my vegetables aren't quite done sauteing yet, but my water is boiling. So I'm going to show you guys how to put your pasta in. So you want to take off the cover and put it to the side. And then you're going to take your box of pasta and you're going to open it. How much pasta you use, again, that depends on how much people you're cooking for. But since it's just going to be me, I'm just going to take maybe half of the box of pasta noodles. I'm going to actually just hold them like this, or tilt it to the side if it's a bit too hot for you. And let it fall to the side like this. As the pasta starts to heat, the noodles will start to get softer, and then it'll all go inside, so you don't have to worry too much about that. I'm now going to add my turkey meat. Slide this little guy in here. And listen to that nice sizzling. See, oh, and there, our noodles are starting to get soft. So I'm actually going to take another spoon, and I'm just going to push them in there a little bit. Now my noodles are in there. And for how long to boil it, you're going to want to look on your pasta box to see how long it says to boil it for. Usually it's about 8 to 10 minutes. Yeah, it says 10 minutes that it wants to boil for. And while that cooks, you can rest the cover on it just lightly, not all the way, and you can start stirring around your turkey meat with your vegetables. This is where I add my spices. So I'm going to take my salt, and I'm going to add more than a pinch. I'm going to also add my pepper. I'm just going to shake some in there and kind of just look inside to see how much I like. Open up my bag of parsley. I'm going to take some, just like this many fingers, and squish it and then just sprinkle it in there. I'm just going to keep stirring my meat until it cooks. Now you want to make sure that it cooks the whole way through. So when you start cooking your meat, it's going to be pink, right? But you want it to be, if you're using turkey, you want it to be a nice light brown color. If you're using a ground beef, then you want it to be a dark brown color. And if you're not sure, then definitely ask, because meat is something you want to be careful about, right? Because if you undercook your meat, then you might get sick, and we don't want any of you getting sick. Turkey meat is cooked, and all my vegetables are cooked. So now's the part where I add the sauce. So I have my jar of sauce, and then you can just add it here. Good to know Miss Chrissy still has some muscles left, eh? Thank Mr. Gomez for all his workout videos. And I'm just going to take my sauce and I'm going to put it in. Let's say I go through half the jar. I'm going to stop pouring. I'm actually going to let this come to a boil, right? So just keep an eye. When you start to see little bubbles, you want to stir it every once in a while. Ooh, check on my pasta. So I'm going to take my fork, or if you have a spaghetti spoon, that's even better. And I'm just going to swish my noodles around to see how they look and how they're doing. It's almost done. So I'm going to check my sauce back again. And so now I'm going to put it down to a simmer, okay? So you still want it to be nice and warm. You still want it to get a little bit of bubbles, but you don't want it to be splashing all over the place. And I also believe my pasta is ready. Let me see. Yes, it is. Oh, and I am going to show you guys how to strain your pasta. So I have my hot pot on an oven mitt so it's not resting directly against my surface. And I have the second oven mitt to hold the pot handle if it's too hot for me. I also have this strainer, and I'm going to put it in my other hand. So I'm just going to go ahead and take my hand that has the oven mitt on it, and I'm going to hold my pot. And then I'm going to hold my strainer with my other hand, and you're going to pour it in there so that all the water drains. Shake out the pasta so there's not a lot of water stuck at the bottom. And then I'm going to pour it back into my pot. As you can see, the sauce is nice and simmering. You got a few bubbles going, and the sauce is basically ready. And then I'm going to make sure I also turn this one off. So I turned off the one for the pasta when that was finished, and now that the sauce is finished, this one goes off. That was the exciting part. This is the part where we get to make our plate. So I put, again, both my pots on oven mitts. So I'm going to take my spaghetti, take a fork, or a pasta spoon if you have one. I'm just going to be careful not to scratch the bottom. I'm going to take my pasta and I'm going to put it on my bowl. Place your noodles, and then next is going to be your pasta sauce, which is my favorite part too. So I like a lot of sauce with mine. So I'm just going to take a big spoonful and I'm going to shake it all in the middle there. Here we go, guys. Put that on top, rest the spoon in there. Now this is my favorite part. I almost forgot about it. It's the Parmesan cheese, or any cheese really. I just really love cheese. So there you have it, guys. We have our spaghetti now. And I really hope you made enough to share with your family, because they're probably gonna want some too. And I cannot wait to see what you guys make. Maybe you did add parsley. Maybe you didn't want turkey. Whatever it is you decide to make, however you like your spaghetti, I want to see it. So until next week, have a super great week. I miss you guys as always. Until next time.
On my way, on my way, on my way.